Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about specifically what it means to have your moon in Libra or moon in the 7th house. My name is Brandon. This is a part of a much larger series that I am working on, where I'm going through every single planet and every single house. There is a playlist down below you're welcome to check out, where I go through everything prior to Libra in the 7th house. So if you have any planets between Aries and Virgo, or the 1st and the 6th house, I'd recommend you check those out as well. I go through every single planet, the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. So I kind of just go through and explain how I've interpreted all of those placements over the years. So I say all of this because this is probably all new to you. You're probably like, what is astrology? What are these things? A lot of people know their moon sign, so this is a pretty common one. So if you have your moon in Libra, you probably already know that this is what your moon sign is. Some people don't know any of this, and if that's the case, I'd recommend you look down below. There's going to be a information down there to kind of generate your birth chart so you can get a better idea of what your placements are if you have moon in Libra, moon in the 7th house, those sorts of things. And in this video, I'm going to break it down into a couple of different portions. One of which we're going to talk about specifically just the moon in astrology and kind of what it can signify, what it can show up as. And then we're going to secondarily talk obviously about the moon in Libra and then the moon in the 7th house. So some people may have the moon in the 7th house, but not the moon in Libra, and vice versa. So this video kind of mixes both of those themes together just because I didn't want to make all of these videos over and over and over again. So it's going to be quite a large series already in and of itself. And I just love being able to do this. This is so much fun. So, and obviously this is what I do for a living. So I love any sort of engagement, like, comment, share, subscribe, all those things. If you have your moon in Libra, I would love to hear how that story has been for you. If you have your moon in the 7th house, I would also love to hear that as well. And if you're interested in anything with me, there is links down below for you to check that out. So without further ado, let's go right into what it means to have the moon in astrology. Okay, so the moon in astrology is a very sensitive part of the chart. It is really where a lot of our emotions go. It's where a lot of our emotional needs are met. It's how we meet our emotional needs. It's how we kind of fulfill ourselves in the private world. And it's more of this kind of private sustenance and private, feeding of oneself. And it's really how you self-regulate your emotions, how you get yourself to a better state of health, and how you really take care of your body. The moon is extremely important in so many different branches of astrology. And the moon has a really big effect on us. It's been shown that throughout history, on full moons and new moons, there's been a lot of correlations between the public's reactions, both in regards to crime and birth rates, as well as the stock market. Even there's been fluctuations in the stock market that have been linked to the lunar cycles in themselves. So the moon is a very sensitive thing, right? You can totally imagine that it's one of those things that we are just innately in tune with without even realizing it. And there's so many different things that the moon really can represent, and within the natal chart, it most primarily represents kind of your instinct, kind of your emotional instinct, how you meet your emotional needs, what you need to get to feel like emotionally safe and fulfilled, and like you can kind of settle yourself, right? And then it also rules everything to do with like the legacy and the family and heritage and your home life and your like how you were taken care of and how you were fed and how you understand the concept of like meeting your needs or having your needs met by someone else. And it's really interesting this video in specific because we're doing moon in Libra, and a lot of what we're kind of talking about right now is this kind of idea of someone else helping you meet your needs, which is what happens like very early on when you are mothered. That's why the moon rules the mother. It rules like the mother was the very first one really to provide you with, that nutrition, right? And that sort of care and support like a mother instinctively does. And so there is this kind of natural connection with the moon and the mother, as well as how you receive your needs, how you are fed, what you use to feed yourself, essentially. And so the moon is going to be our fastest moving body, so it is going to have a lot of importance to have an accurate birth time with this. And the moon aspect is really important if there is any moon aspects. So the accurate birth time is the most important, specifically for the moon sign and the rising sign. Those are the two parts of the chart that move the quickest as it relates to time. So really important to kind of understand that, because your moon aspect is going to have a really, especially if you are like a lunar individual, like if you're a Cancer rising, this moon aspect is going to have a lot more of importance for you because of the fact that you are ruled by that moon. You're feeling that moon more intuitively and more connected than not. And also, if you're a Cancer sun as well, there's going to be some more lunar qualities that you're naturally in tune with in a way that is very sensitive, very intuitive. And the moon's placement in the chart, both by sign and house, is going to show what area of life kind of fluctuates, goes up and down, right? Changes. And it really changes on how you feel about yourself and how you feel that things are, some days are good, some days are bad, right? I did the whole series I did on Cancer in the fourth house really spoke about that, and kind of understanding the kind of waves within your day-to-day, within your month, and understanding that every day is kind of different and kind of approaching it from a different emotional space. And your moon sign will definitely show what you need to keep yourself kind of steady and stable, but also what will change, right? Like what consistent thing will change throughout your month based off of your moon sign placement and aspects, things like that. So there's so many different layers to this. So I really recommend, if you're interested in learning more about the moon, definitely check out potentially the Cancer series as well that I have on this channel here. But if you're interested in looking at much deeper into your chart, feel free to reach out to me as well. But without further ado, let's go specifically into what the moon means in Libra. We have the moon in Libra here. So this Libra moon is one of the nicer placements for the moon to be in, because the moon is pretty friendly with Venus, right? So the moon is considered to be exalted in the other sign of Venus, which is Taurus. The moon naturally rules Cancer, and it is considered to be uncomfortable or in detriment in the sign of Capricorn. It's the opposite sign of the moon. And then it is considered to be exalted in Taurus, and therefore considered to be fallen in Scorpio. So, and obviously it rules Cancer. So there is a lot of, the moon doesn't have that many really extreme dignities. It really only has, it doesn't have as many as like Mars does, because the moon only has one ruler. It's really only ruled by Cancer. So there is going to be this interesting correlation, though, between the moon's dignities and kind of how you relate to being fed and things like that. But anywho, that's a whole different portion of this. Point is, when it comes to the moon in Libra, the reason why it actually does quite well, like I had said, is because it does have that Venusian connection, which the moon inherently likes because it's connected to Taurus. Now, the difference with this is that the moon in Libra, and this might be a little bit more on an advanced like approach to this, because I don't typically go this kind of deep in these videos, but it'll just bear with me, follow with me if you can. So if we put the moon in Libra, okay, and we're trying to look at either, you know, Taurus or Cancer or Capricorn or Scorpio, which are all kind of places that the moon can understand really well and innately is in tune with, in some extremes or some, you know, some detrimental things, whatever it may be. So when we have the moon in Libra, it can't necessarily easily see Taurus, the other Venus sign, right? Although Taurus and Libra are both Venusian signs, they can't see each other by a major aspect, meaning that they're not linked by like a trine or by a sextile or by a square. They're not linked by any of those like major things that the planets are easily able to kind of see one another. And so because of that, that's where this moon Libra's dignity kind of falls off. And because it can't see the moon in Taurus, right? The moon it can see, though, is, or the part of the moon that it can see is Cancer and Capricorn. So the moon in Libra can see Cancer and Capricorn. It is through a square, though. So it is through a more difficult aspect, right? It's been through a more kind of intense thing. So the moon naturally rules Cancer, and then Libra is at a natural square to Cancer. And this is something we talk about a lot in like evolutionary astrology, which is the branch of astrology I specifically use. And it works primarily in like the aspects, right? The major aspects that we kind of deal with. And when we think about the moon in Libra, naturally squaring that moon in the moon in Cancer, where it naturally wants to kind of be, there is this kind of inherent worry about potentially how the family is going to relate to the relationships, and how you relate to the family, and how those relationship dynamics are hindering you from connecting to other people. Because that moon really wants to feel safe, and it wants to feel at home. It wants to feel secure in Cancer, right? And it's being forced to be in Libra. It's being forced to kind of go out with people. What like the image I get in my mind is like that really shy kid who is very shy, and the mother like is like who they're attached to, right? Which is very common with the moon in Libra. I feel like they have a really big relationship with their moms. But anywho, so the moon in the moon wants to be in Cancer, it wants to be at home, and the image I'm getting in my head is like when the mother takes the kid out to wherever, some social event, right? Because it's in Libra, so it's going to be social, right? It's also similar to Moon in the seventh house to some degree. And they kind of force that kid to socialize, and the kid doesn't want to because they're feeling some type of way from this person. They're sensitive about this person. They're not wanting to connect to that person because they're a stranger, right? That's kind of the premise of the moon in Libra, and the kind of the weirdness of that, because the moon in Libra is kind of forced to be social, and it becomes uncomfortable but has to be comfortable at the same time. So their relationship with the public is very sensitive. Their relationship with people is very sensitive because they were either socialized really quickly, or they had a lot of just relationships around them. This is like the very like the mom that when they had this child, it's then like, okay, everyone just wants to meet them, and it becomes this like huge party, and they're meeting all these people, right? Even like throughout their entire life, like they're just meeting a lot of people in their formative years, and they realize that they have a lot of sensitivity to other people, but they can't necessarily like gauge it, right? And some of that can come from like, and this is something I see a lot with the moon in the seventh house, moon in Libra, where the child wasn't really they were kind of, and this is like a moon Libra and moon Aquarius thing, much more moon Aquarius than moon Libra, but it's like they're raised by either like, and this is also similar, I think it's true for all moon air signs, to be honest, but they're raised by someone that's not their family or not their mother necessarily, whether it be, you know, their mother's friends, right, or their mother's colleagues, or their, you know, their mother's kind of just coworkers and things like that, whoever they trust, right? Like, or they're, if it's moon in Gemini, it could be like, you know, the aunt in specific, or if it's moon in Aquarius, it's a whole other thing. I'll get to that later. But a lot of it is about like the moon in Libra is almost raised by other people to some degree, and when they go back to their mother, that relationship is so important to them, and they're very attached to their mother typically, unless there's weird aspects of the moon. But they're also like weirdly split between other people because they're such a social moon sign, and they're kind of, once again, like to some degree forced to be, or have a lot of conditioning that wants them to be social with someone, where they want to experience, or they've been forced to experience, like, oh, now we're going to go to all these parties, and we're going to go all these things, and we're going to introduce all these people in the family. Like, that's the thing with moon Libra. I think they have such a like family party energy that they're just known, like they're just really known, and they know a lot of people, and they know a lot of like people's friends, and a lot of people's friends know them, and that's the relationships. Family feels like a very like everyone can be my family if I want them to be, right? That's kind of what I think the moon kind of does in Libra, because they've been so exposed to so many different people that they just kind of feel cared for by a lot of people pretty easily. But there is also that really important part of moon Libra, to understand their intuition when it comes to their when it comes to how they're feeling about a person. Same with moon seventh house. Moon seventh house is different because of the fact that it's seventh house and it can be another sign besides Libra. But because Libra is such a Venusian sign and it is such a relationship-oriented sign, the moon here makes you so sensitive to people. So sensitive to what they're saying and who they are, and what they want to do, and what they want out of you. And so your relationships become so important. Moon Libras are one of the people that are consistently just talking about a bunch of different things about their relationships. They kind of want to play out a bunch of different ideas of what the relationship could be, what they want from the partner. They kind of get a bunch of different sides of the coin. The thing about Libra placements that is inherent, is like the whole stereotype, is they can't make a choice, right? And the moon fluctuates so consistently, and Libra cares so much about other people that they kind of go day to day, and they feel different about their partner day to day, and they can't really find a way to stabilize that, really. And it's about knowing how to find stability and instability in a relationship, which is very hard. And I think a lot of what I see with the moon Libra, and also kind of like just lunar people in general, but the moon Libra has this, and I think potentially moon Pisces too, where there's this really big lesson around the idea of emotional impermanence, meaning that when someone is not in your life, they don't love you. That is false. That is 100% false. It is just something that when it's not there, it feels like it's gone, right? And that's the thing that I think moon Libra and moon Pisces as well, like, and not really moon Taurus, because they don't really have that problem because exalted, but they still could in other avenues. It's about the idea of knowing that something is still there when it's not, right? When the person is not in your life and you're not in their energy, they still love you, right? And they still are able to take care of you, and they still want to be a part of your life. Just because it changes day by day, just because their feelings change day by day, and that partner is dealing with their own emotions, right? Because they're a different person than you. Just because that's what they're doing doesn't mean that they love you any less. It just means they have their own feelings, they have their own reactions, they have their own karma, they have their own chart, right? And so it's important to understand that relationships will change day by day. Someone's feelings will change day by day, mainly about what they're dealing with in their life. It doesn't have to necessarily impact, it will impact you a lot. Like the relationships fluctuation will impact a moon Libra the most, because they are so in tune with the subtle kind of changes within somebody's relationship and within somebody's dynamic, because the moon in Libra is so sensitive to others. It makes, as I've said for almost every like Libra video and everything, is like there's so much of a connection to counseling with the moon in Libra. Moon in the 7th house has this too, because they're so emotionally in tune with others, and they know how to make them feel safe and heard and cared for, and they want to be there for people, right? And they understand that, like, it won't happen overnight, and it won't, like, they understand how to comfort others, but a lot of their reasoning for understanding how to comfort others is because they were comforted so much by people in their life that it creates this weird kind of like back and forth for them that they always have to deal with, where they're really good at comforting others, but then they always also want at the same time to be comforted themselves. And so there's this weird idea with attachment with the moon Libra that is really like a whole layer in itself to like explore, because the moon Libra typically it needs some sense of detachment, but it's so hard because the moon naturally squares it in Libra, right? Because the moon rules Cancer. So there's a lot of difficulty there. And then obviously it opposes Mars. So there is this kind of like interesting quality with the moon in Libra, where it's really so much about other people. And this is something that Libra in the 7th house really struggles with, that it doesn't know how to assert its own emotions and its own values, because its emotions are so tied to other people and tied to that partner and tied to, that relationship dynamic, that they're 110% living out a reflection of what their family dynamic was. And everyone does that, but the moon Libra, I think, is more aware of it, and has to be more aware of it, and is working on really bringing they're going to get a lot of relationships that are going to be reflections of their mother's relationship, both the relationship they have with their mother, if they're pursuing women, and also the relationship that their mother had with their father. So there's going to be something around that lines too, that needs to be kind of worked on. The family dynamic is a whole thing in itself, and that's also because Moon in Libra also squares Capricorn. So there's kind of this interesting family dynamic here with the Moon in Libra. So yeah. Now, the Moon in Libra, it does have a really artsy flair to it. This makes for really, really, really great artists. People that are capable of doing phenomenal, beautiful things in life because they are so artsy. They're so aware of the public's need. The Moon in any air sign kind of has this. Moon in Libra, I think, has this probably the best because the 7th house in Libra is the marketplace. It is other people. It's that first introduction to other people. And so there is a lot of sales aspect to this. Gemini has it as well. And then Aquarius is a little bit on the fringe of that. It's a little bit more on the kind of like societal trends, which is a little bit of a broader reach because there's still Saturn involved with that. But when it comes to the Moon Libra, we see these people that are really good at connecting to others. That's the thing. They're so sensitive to other people that they know how to work them. They know how to work them in a way that they know how to work with their sensitivities. They know how to work with their intuition. Their intuition about people, top tier. Top tier, and they need to follow that. They need to listen to that. That's a whole thing. Like, you wouldn't be exposed to those things if you wouldn't... Like, if you had the words at the age that you were introduced to people about what you're feeling in your intuitive body and that emotional impulse and the feelings you get from other people and the vibes and everything, if you had the words for that when you were that age, you would be beyond capable of immense sensitivity, and immense power in a lot of ways. The Moon in Libra is not to be to be laughed at. It is probably a more psychic moon sign, in my opinion. It can be vain, obviously, because it's a Venus sign. So it can definitely have this vanity to it. It can have this kind of like, I want to be everyone's friend and work with everybody, and kind of have this kind of really relational thing. And so there can be this kind of wishy-washy, everyone's friend thing. The sun doesn't do well here, obviously, like I had said in the sun video, but the moon here, it does well because it does better because it's more on the private emotional sense. It does still struggle because that natural square, but it does have a sense of like the other and what they want, which is, it's more receptive to that. It's more able to be like, okay, like, what do you want? Let's work on that. Let's figure those things out, right? So that's just something that I think is really important for Moon Libra people to understand. And obviously the Venus placement, hugely important for this, because this is going to tell you what the values are that you really care about, and what relationship values you really want in your life. So just know that. And also know that, like I said, your relationships are going to change all the time. It's about really leaning into your values and what you care about, and look at your Venus aspects. They're going to be a big part of this story, is telling you what your Venus wants, right? What values you want, what relationships you want, what morals you will and will not stand for, and what type of, person you want to be with, and what type of person you want to be, right? It's about that too. I think a lot of the time with Libra, we talk so much about other people and what you want out of a partner, but you need to realize what you want as well. And start embodying that, and start realizing that, yes, people are going to change every day. They're going to have so many different reactions to what they're dealing with in their life, and all these different sensitivities, because people are inherently sensitive. Whether or not they want to hide it or not, they inherently have a private world. And you have to be able to also sustain your own private world, your own emotions, so that you can be that stable person and understand them and where they're at and why they're responding the way they are, and be that stability for them. That's really what the moon in Libra has the greatest gift for it. But you need to be able to stabilize your own emotions first, so that you can be that gift for other people and be that kind of supportive person while they go through what they're going to go through. So just, that's a little tidbit on Moon Libra. If you're Moon Libra, I would love to hear your story and how it's been for you, what your experience has been with relationships and all those sorts of things. And yeah, and obviously look at your Venus placement. That's a huge thing there. And if you like this video, please like, comment, share, subscribe. All those things are going to help me. I do this for a living. I love doing this. This means the world to me. And I am just really grateful to be here. And if this video helps anyone, I just hope it's you. So without further ado, the last thing I want to say before I go to Moon 7th house, if you're interested in anything with me, if you have any questions about astrology, want to learn anything, feel free to look down below. There's some information down there for bookings and offerings, things like that. So now I will see you in the next part where we talk about the moon in the 7th house. Okay, so we have the moon in the 7th house. So the moon in the 7th house is going to have a lot of sensitivity to the public, a lot of sensitivity to people, and they're going to have a deep desire to have their emotions kind of perceived publicly. These are the people that are going to be going and posting a lot of their emotions to the world, similar to a moon in the 10th house person or a moon on the ascendant person. When the moon's on an angle, which is, well, a public angle, the IC is a little bit different. But when it's on the ascendant, the midheaven, or the descendant, which are all kind of public or immediately accessible areas to other people, it's something that you are going to have a lot of emotions that are wanting to be seen and perceived. The perception of your feelings and your ability to share your feelings, really important. You need to learn how to share them more openly, be more aware of them, and be aware of how people respond to them. Because a lot of the time with the moon in the 7th house, as well as like the moon up towards the top of the chart, mainly 10th or 11th, you're going to see a lot of people, like I said, that share their emotions, but by sharing their emotions, by sharing their vulnerability, by sharing their sensitivity, by sharing, or even working with their family, or kind of bringing that sensitive part of their lives into their relationship, into the public, it makes them more relatable. It kind of softens people's reactions to them. It allows people to respond in kind and respond in a way that is very just understanding. And I think that's the gift of the moon is it brings out a part of us that is innately just understood, right? We all understand what the inner world and the family dynamics are. We might not have lived them. Like we might not have lived, a toxic, emotional, abusive kind of relationship, or a neglectful parent, or a smothering parent. Like we haven't necessarily all lived those things, but we do all understand the gift of sharing our feelings with somebody, and the relatability. That's a big thing with the moon in the 7th house, is there's a gift of relatability that they have to give to people when they share or expose or are vulnerable or sensitive. In the same way, they are extremely sensitive to people's opinions of them and people's perception of them. Their relationship becomes really, really important because their emotions become so tied to whomever is across from them, whoever's talking to them, whoever they're partnering with, whoever they're working with. So with the moon in the 7th house, it's really important to understand both your sensitivity to other people, and their sensitivity to you. And I think what benefits more often than not to moon 7th house people is being open about your feelings towards others and understanding your emotional reactions that others bring out in you. Being able to find the words to communicate how you feel to others is a really important gift for the moon in the 7th house people, because they're able to bring out a vulnerability in people. Like I said, there's a sense of relatability with the moon in the 7th house that is such a prominent gift. And this is why I think the moon does really well here, because the sun shines a light on something, and the sun is and the sun is all about itself, right? It's all about, oh, this is the beauty of me, this is who I am. That's why the sun in Libra doesn't do that well, right? Because it's outshining someone else. It's making someone else about them, right? It's making all of relationships with other people about them, right? And there's a lot of disproportionate kind of stuff there. But when it's the moon is all about reflection. It's about reflecting a part of yourself to someone that they also innately understand, which is where the moon in the 7th house can shine really well. They shine a light in a way of like, everyone's been there. Everyone's had a bad day. Everyone's had a really positive day as well. They've been at the top of their life and the bottom of their life, and everyone understands that. And if you can go about having a conversation with someone with the awareness of where they're at in their life and their phase, and understanding that you're at your own phase too. That's the thing with the moon, is it's so beautiful, because it is innately going to kind of go through phases, and it has to understand that. And this is, once again, like the moon Libra I said earlier, it's something where they have to understand this idea that their partner and people around them will change from day to day. And it's not going to be great all the time. It's not going to be amazing all the time, right? But over time, it will make sense, and it will be stronger, as you're willing to share those feelings and be open and have an expression of your emotions to other people. That's just your sensitivity is your gift, right? And like I said, your relationship to the public is really important, your ability to share those things. And typically, if you have the moon very public in your chart, and really well placed, you will likely work in areas of life that are relative to lunar things. This is more moon 10th house stuff than anything, but moon 7th house people, I see a lot with people that are counselors or coaches or people that are emotionally helping people through things, through simply just sharing their own vulnerabilities, their own struggles, their own just emotions, but also family business, family partnerships are a big thing here. If you have your moon in the 7th house, I'd recommend you watch the previous portion too, because I talked a lot about the idea of emotional impermanence and kind of family socialization, which is a huge thing in Moon Libra, because this is the first time that, in Moon 7th house, this is the first time that we get socialized, the first time we introduce to someone else, right? And the moon's here. So it's like, ooh, this is sensitive. This is where I feel most vulnerable, right? What I'm telling the Moon 7th house people and Moon Libra people, lean into that. Lean into that. That's going to help you, right? And obviously your moon sign is going to play a huge factor in how this is going, right? But with that, there's a lot of different layers to this, right? So if you put the moon in a Martian sign, right, like Aries or Scorpio, these are going to be the ones that are going to be a little bit more combative with their people, right? These are the ones that are not going to want to be forthcoming with their partners, or anyone about their feelings, especially the moon Scorpio. Moon Scorpio in the 7th is a whole... That is, wait till next season when I do the Moon Scorpio video. That's going to be a huge video in and of itself. But the Moon Scorpio in the 7th is in and of itself like that's emotional abuse, and that's giving. What that is really giving, unfortunately, is hurt people hurt people. That's really what that's giving, and it's unconscious hurt as well, which is really sad. So there's a lot with that Moon Scorpio in the 7th. I would say if you have that placement, and also Moon Capricorn in the 7th, but a little bit differently. Share your trauma. Don't create more in the relationship, right? Heal your trauma, work on your gift, like sit with those feelings, because that's what's really going to be your biggest asset in so many different ways with that Moon Scorpio in the 7th, is being able to sit with those toxicity and make sure that you're not repeating that really intense relationship dynamic, and recreating the abuse, and the disempowerment. Like you want someone to be really vulnerable with your feelings and be able to sit with your darkness, right? But to do that, you have to be willing to share that darkness with someone, right? Similarly to Moon Capricorn, I'll get to that at the very end because that's the Saturnian one. So they got to wait, sorry. And then, because the only reason I brought it up because it's another dignity thing, but I'll get to it a little bit later. But the Moon Mars with Aries, I know someone that has this placement. They are very hot. When they're on, they're on. When they want to talk to you, they want to talk to you, right? And they are very much like, okay, I'm here. I want to talk now. This is I need to get some emotional safety from you. I need to get some emotional comfort. So I'm gonna go towards you, right? I'm gonna make that like that jump. I'm gonna take that risk. I'm gonna listen to my impulse and I'm gonna do it, right? And it's a move that is me following that emotional impulse, right? That emotional trust, right? And with Moon in the 7th house in Aries, Libra rising, so relationships are a big thing for you as well, obviously. So there's a whole layer there that I'm not going to get into, because there's a lot that I could talk about with that. Now, Moon in a Venus ruled sign. I talked about Moon in Libra, obviously. I did the Moon in Taurus video. I've done all these videos already, so you're welcome to check those out. Anything prior to Libra, obviously, because there's a lot of context in those videos as well that was definitely going to help you. But Moon Taurus in the 7th, this is going to be a relationship that, or looking for a partner that is, this is where we see someone who really knows their worth a lot in a relationship, where they know their value. Granted, you really want to look to see what the aspects are and what else is going on in the chart, because all millennials that have the moon in Taurus, especially if it's like, it'll likely be in aspect to an opposition to Pluto. So if you're a millennial with the moon in Taurus, the moon Scorpio thing I just said will probably resonate too. So there's that. But I would really urge you to, if you have moon in Taurus, to really see your value, see your worth in a relationship, because you have it and you know it, and don't settle, right? That's the thing with the moon Taurus. And moon in 7th house, I feel like in general just needs to not settle, because the moon never really can settle, really. I mean, it can, but it has to really feel all the feelings and do all the things. So expose the feelings. I think you understand the importance of feelings and emotional connection there and emotional vulnerability. So yeah, that's a moon Venus one there. Moon Libra in the 7th, that's a whole, obviously that's what this video is for. So there's just a whole lot of emotional sensitivity to other people, a lot here. Your Venus placement's going to have a really big deal with this. I would really urge you look in that one for specifically, because that's a big part of your chart. It's about you like being able to be with someone that's receptive. That's the other thing too. I think the moon in the 7th house needs to have someone that's receptive to things, receptive to who they are, receptive to vulnerabilities, right? That's kind of the whole thing that I'm really getting at with the moon in the 7th house here. Moon and Mercury road sign. So I did both these videos already, Gemini and Virgo. This one has, obviously, they need a very talkative partner, need a very emotionally sensitive partner. And the moon in Mercury this is a great salesperson. Great salesperson. They're able to really have a lot of conversations, kind of work with a lot of different people, work with their hands, work with kind of client like coaching as well is a really big thing here. Helping to improve someone with the Virgo part of it, helping to kind of get someone to understand their voice or coach them on that with the moon and Gemini. Moon and Gemini in the 7th, this is going to be someone that, and moon and Mercury too, I think moon Mercury in general, not just moon Gemini, these are the ones that are very much like understand the importance of talking about their feelings with people, but that doesn't mean that like they're gonna, like they almost could weirdly enough like over communicate their feelings with other people or about other people, and then it becomes more messy because there's so many different misinterpretations of their feelings, because moon Mercury can run into that issue where there's literal just people's thoughts and interpretations of what your feelings are aren't necessarily going to be clear because they have a different relationship with those words that you're using. And so the moon Mercury is really about finding the right words for your feelings, and it's reflected back to you from other people. So like I said, moon Mercury, they can definitely over communicate their feelings and under communicate their feelings as well. It depends on the Mercury placement as well as the moon's placement, like by aspects and things. But just know that there's something here with a sense of over-analysis of your feelings, and feeling like it's never understood enough. But it's because you can't, and I think that's partially because moon 7th housers really struggle with feeling their feelings sometimes because they need someone else to be there and be present for them. And moon Mercury needs someone to talk them through it, and sometimes doing that gets you out of your emotional body, gets you in this space, and doesn't allow you to be in your own body and feel it and really go through that sensitivity. So just think about that if you have your moon Mercury. Just yeah. Moon in the moon sign, moon in the sun sign. This is going to be strong. Obviously, moon in Cancer in the 7th is just like overly sensitive. So this is where like every person you come in contact with, everyone you connect to is like a raw nerve for you. And the sensitivity here with the moon in Cancer. Yeah, this one is just everyone's going to be really sensitive, and you're going to be really sensitive to people's reactions despite being a Capricorn rising. In this example, you're going to have, this very just impulsive reaction to people, and you're going to feel like people are very, very, very sensitive to you. I know someone actually who has this placement, and she is very, very sensitive to people. Even though she has a Capricorn rising, she's extremely sensitive to a lot of the world, and emotions are just triggered like that by other people. And the thing with the moon 7th house, like I said, all this is really centered around the idea of your feelings being perceived by other people, and that in and of themselves is showing you the validity of them and the power of them by allowing them to be seen. And the moon Cancer, it's Cancer, it's a moon in Cancer, so it's gonna do it. It's gonna just show all the feelings, do it all. Like it's gonna want to do that, and it's gonna just naturally do that because it's naturally in the sign, right? Moon Leo, this one is going to be a little bit on the oversharing part as well here, but it can have an aspect of it that is really beautiful, because it's able to bring more inspiration to people, bring more, positivity to people's lives by sharing their feelings. The sun sign's obviously going to be really important for this one too. I did a whole video on Moon Leo, so check that out because there's a whole thing on that. Now Moon and Jupiter's ruled signs, so Moon and Sag and Pisces. in the 7th, this is going to be an interesting one because it's different than the moon Mercury in the 7th, because the moon Mercury is going to have miscommunications because they're over communicating and they're confusing their partner because their partner has different words for those things and is interpreting their words differently or their feelings differently. Moon in like a Jupiter ruled sign like Sag or Pisces in the 7th is going to have a same miscommunication issue, but it's going to simply be because they're looking for so much meaning and answers and guidance from their partner, and they're looking for so much of like a connection with that person, right? And understanding of why they're doing what they're doing, like why and the moon Pisces especially can get like really overly lost in that partner's feelings, and not have those boundaries. That's the thing with, I think, moon the 7th in general, boundaries are important. Understanding where your emotions, like where the line is drawn between your emotions and someone else's emotions. Because moon 7th, you're just going to inherently like just get involved with people's feelings, which is great because there's a time and place for that. There really, really, really is. And there's so much power in that as well, because you're able to bring out so much sensitivity and people cry around you and express their feelings around you and they feel so safe around you, right? But you need to have those boundaries, right? That's where the moon 7th house really needs to understand the emotional boundaries and what's like oversharing, what's trauma dumping, right? What is your emotions and what is their emotions, and they also need to understand that. So emotional boundaries, really important. Please do them. Please do them. And moon Pisces, I think, struggles the most with that, because Pisces is the water sign that has no shell and no protection. So it just does it. It just falls into it. These are great psychics, great intuitives, great readers, great tarot card readers, great astrologers, people that are able to look at somebody and feel their energy. Mediumship. Moon Scorpio there too is great for that. Moon Cancer, moon and water in general over there is going to be really good. Moon Sag here. This is a very this is this is another fiery moon, so it is going to be really enjoyable with their partner. It's going to have a lot of fun. It's going to, want to express a lot of stuff. It might overwhelm their partner with how much it wants to do, which, once again, like, not every partner is going to believe the same beliefs as you, which is where that line needs to be kind of drawn. Not everyone's going to have the energy to do what you want to do, the enthusiasm, and not everyone's going to, like, your beliefs are not really going to align. And if they do, you're going to need to realize that your partner is going to not change, but like their meaning behind their life is really what I think needs to be really understood with the moon and Sag, is really knowing what your partner believes in, and if your beliefs are in alignment with that, and not falling into that just because you want to be with someone, right? Yeah, there's a lot there, like looking for the purpose behind why you're feeling what you're feeling about a person, and you can overly get involved with that and not feel your own feelings, right? That's something, like I said, moon Jupiter, moon Jupiter, moon Mercury both have the same kind of issue where they're running from their emotions by going to the other person, because the other person is confusing them more, either because they're getting lost in that person and they're trying to find the answers in that person, or they're trying to find the answers in themselves by talking to it with that person, and that person is not them. Crazy, that person's not you. So they're not able to like actually help you, but they're meant to reflect back to you. So yeah, and so the moon in a Jupiter ruled sign is going to reflect back to you your beliefs, your meaning, your purpose of the relationship. So this is, once again, another one that's great for healers, great for speakers, but like philosophers, teachers, stuff like that too, counselors, coaches. Really great there. And then finally, moon Capricorn and moon Aquarius. So the Saturnian moons, the harder moons here. This one is going to have, especially moon Capricorn. I meant to say this earlier. The moon Capricorn the 7th, this is your chart ruler. Okay, so you are a Cancer rising. So this is a big deal for you, because you will have you being the moon, being Cancer rising, going into the 7th. So relationships for you, huge deal, hugely important. And one of those things that require you to have the patience with other people, once again, about that idea about emotional impermanence, and knowing that you are going to be so invested in relationships, but you need to be invested in yourself. And that's where the moon kind of really needs to understand that you are, especially because you are the moon, you need to understand that you are constantly changing and evolving, and so is your partner. And you can evolve closer or away. It's up to you about how willing you are to be vulnerable with that person. It's really ultimately about, once again, with the moon 7th, the vulnerability and the ability to be vulnerable and not hold back. Like I said, with the moon earlier in the 7th, when I was talking about moon in Scorpio in the 7th, moon in Capricorn in the 7th is going to have the same difficulty of emotional vulnerability and sharing those things, but they can have a job around that. Like, they can genuinely be like a life coach if they're willing to work on themselves and help someone else through their difficulties as they've matured. Because the moon Capricorn is it's a hard one. It's a hard one. It's a definitely a more emotionally quiet and reserved and cold moon. And it doesn't allow itself to feel feelings because they don't feel safe. And so there is something here with being forced into a relationship, forced into something with someone, and feeling like it's not working, meaning like it's just not time, right? Or it's the wrong time. And it's about patience with yourself as you go through relationships, as well as a patience with your partner, right? And being vulnerable and being patient with yourself as you heal. Yeah, the moon Capricorn the 7th is a huge one. It's a huge one for that reason, because it is you. So yeah. Yeah, so it's a whole sensitivity there. And like I said, having a business with a partner can be a part of it too, or a coaching business, or a 7th house business, which is like anything with consulting, working in like having a career with the family, work from home, that sort of stuff. Yeah, there's a lot there. And who you get into business with is a huge thing too. So be careful about that. There's a sensitivity with who you bring into business with you. Anywho, yeah. And then moon in Aquarius, the last moon here. This is a weird one too. This is where we'll definitely see the public display of emotions in family. As a native moon in Aquarius myself, that's a lot of what I do, and I'll get to that when I do my moon Aquarius video eventually. But the moon Aquarius in the 7th, you're gonna have really weird friends, really distant friends, yeah, there's gonna be some really weird relationships that you're gonna need to kind of re-understand who you are through that and kind of put yourself back together. Yeah, your relationships are gonna be really interesting with the moon Aquarius here. Yeah, especially because your moon rules the 12th. So I'm not going too deep in this. I'm trying not to, but my brain's just doing it. So, but point is, this is just supposed to be just a moon Aquarius video. But my point is that there is this kind of quality here with the moon in Aquarius in the 7th that is really sensitive to other people and everything in the collective. And there's this socialization thing here where they're able to kind of fit into every group and every person and every kind of cause, but they understand that that's just an aspect of them, and they're kind of reclaiming parts of themselves through every relationship and every partnership and every person they work with and everything over and over again. So it's really powerful. Moon 7th, like I said, it's all about sharing those vulnerabilities, sharing who you are with people, being vulnerable, being able to just say, this is who I am, this is what I am, and being, expressive of your feelings, as weird as they may be, right? The moon Aquarius, as a moon Aquarius individual, it's important to just be able to just share your feelings and know that there's value in sharing it with the collective. And moon in the 7th house has that too. Like, just overall, the moon 7th house just really needs to share its feelings with people and get comfortable with being uncomfortable with somebody and getting comfortable within their feelings as well. Don't get lost in them, and that's where the emotional boundaries come in. And that's where moon Capricorn and moon Aquarius definitely understand more than other ones because of the Saturnian influence there. And it will take time for them to feel like confident in their emotions to express those things. So point is it's just about feeling your feelings with people, being aware of how much you're sharing, and being vulnerable with people. So it's a really really great gift to have your moon in the 7th. And I would love to hear your stories with this placement, because there's so much in here. And I just appreciate it. I appreciate being able to do this, and this has been so enjoyable. I love doing the series here. It's just so much fun, and the moon is so enjoyable. It's such a long video here, but I appreciate you for sitting through this. And if you have your moon in the 7th house, moon in Libra, please put down below how that experience has been for you. I'd love to hear about it. And obviously, of course, you're going to want to look to see the moon aspects and other things, which I'm not going to go into this video here because that would be going all over the place. But I just really, really appreciate you and anyone. And I really hope this video helped somebody. And I hope it was you. I hope it was you because that'd be cute. Yeah, and I just appreciate you. And if you're interested in any more of my stuff, all my stuff's down below. And if you have anything prior to Aries and Libra, or the 1st and the 7th house, all those videos are down below. So feel free to check those out. And if you're waiting on anything post 7th house or Libra, those videos will be coming out in the future seasons. So make sure to stay tuned for those, and that playlist down below for that. So yeah, if you guys are interested in anything with me, you know where to find me. It's all down below. I appreciate you, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.